There we go. Hi there, Melanie.
Hi there, Laurie.
And hey to everybody out there who's going to watch today, tomorrow, or anytime in the future. Melanie and I have gotten together today to talk about a challenge that I created here not just a few days ago called the Ignite Living Challenge, and it's hashtag 365 days Ignite Living. And I was inspired by Melanie here to create this challenge for myself. She shared a video on Facebook about how she's been creating more living in her life and what that's been, creating for her. And I thought, well, actually, I guess that's not even fully right. She was doing a video on an ALS challenge, right?
That's
And at
right.
the end of it, after doing your challenge, you had shared what would the world be like if everyone or anyone started creating more living in their life just every day, which hugely inspired me to then choose to create this challenge. And yeah, so that's where we start today. I'm Laurie Larson. I don't think I said that. I have a webpage, www.laurielarsen, if you'd like to check it out for more information. Today we're just mostly talking about the challenge. So go ahead, Melanie. What would you like to say about
Well,
yourself?
well, I think too for people to know, like this is really spontaneous. We're just following the energy of living for us. It's the first time we've ever done a Google Hangout, so we're kind of troubleshooting and sort of figuring out this process. So thanks for coming to play with us. What would it take for this to record and everything to turn out with total ease? I'm Melanie Clampett. I'm an Access Certified Facilitator. We both are, actually. And my business is Ignite Inspired Living. So for me, I've been kind of playing with this energy of like, what is really the energy of living for me for about the last year? And it's just been changing so much in my life. So when I made the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge video, it got me thinking, people get really inspired. And like big groups of people will take the time to invite people to something when it's something people are looking to overcome, an obstacle or a disease or a problem. So I started wondering, what would it be like if we actually started to invite each other and really got inspired by not having to overcome a problem, but really looking at what would it take to add more of the energy of living, excitement, expansion, to just be really creating and living the lives we would really love to be living. And I don't know that a lot of people have permission or know that that's even something they can choose. So it was so cool when I got your message going, hey, guess what? I created a challenge. I'm actually someone who's willing to take a challenge and invite other people to play in this energy of igniting living. So thank you so much. Like, you've been a huge inspiration to me, inviting me to more. And here we are doing a Google Hangout, something that we've never done before. And that's one of those energies of living for me that I'm discovering in this process, is learning and trying something new, kind of jumping in and, feeling it out and seeing what happens. So even this process, is also really that energy of living for me. I don't know, how about you?
Yeah. Well, I found that, just in creating this Hangout today, we were actually planning to do it in the future, and here we go. And when we couldn't figure out audio, and we were Google searching and everything, along the lines for me today, there's energies that and feelings that came up where in the past I would have chose, okay, well, let's just not worry about it today. Let's just go play with it on our own. Let's just not worry about it. Maybe we'll talk again in another couple of days. And what I loved about, there was something about you that just kept the ball rolling. And so when I started to come across that sort of stuck energy, I was like, no, she's still choosing it. Okay, I'm going to still keep choosing it too. And, and here we go. And it just kind of, it shows me where often in my life I haven't chosen the living, or I didn't even know that that's what I was doing, that I was stopping the living. And so I'm really up for this. And just in the week that
Yeah.
this challenge has been created, I've learned so much more that living isn't always necessarily about, even though there's some people crazy like you who jump out of planes. I'm not sure if I'll ever choose that, and who knows. But what I noticed is that the energy of living is, even for me, just being present in this moment. I've noticed that I'm more present with the people that I'm with. I'm not assuming that I know what they're going to say. I'm not planning my response in my head to what I think they're going to say. I'm actually present to receive more from them. And I'm finding that I'm doing that just with life in general. So a lot of the things that I thought were either, say, right or wrong before, either like work or, say a family function or something, I'm going there with like a whole different way of looking at it. And so it's like igniting living just in the everyday moments, not just necessarily those big ones, which,
well, I think that's
planning a group hangout is pretty big.
right. Well, and I really like what you just said, like everyday living. So, like, that is living, right? Like, we'll often, when people talk about the energy of living, it's the vacation. That's when they're really living, or these brief moments. But what if igniting living is exactly that? It's the choices that we make every day in the quiet moments of our lives, in our day-to-day life, when we're kind of on autopilot. So that's kind of the difference between, for me, life and living. What most people do is have a life. They sort of have the same things they do. They've kind of figured out what works and so what's comfortable, and they sort of do those same things with slight variations. And I've noticed, for me to really be living, there's an element of choice and change and creation that goes on, all throughout the day in those moments, that it's not separate from what we're choosing in our everyday life. It's like, what if we could really have that energy of living that we often only choose in these particular areas of our lives, if we can have them across the board? So, Laurie, maybe we should tell people what they're being invited to. Like,
okay.
What is this challenge that you created?
Well, what I've done is I started it the first week of September of 2014, and anyone is invited to jump in at any time, any day, and you can join me in the 365 days. You can join me for one day. You can join me for a month, and just any time in between. The whole idea and what has made this fun for me is that I kind of have like a no judgment rule for myself. So like no judgment of myself if I'm not choosing living that day, or I forgot about choosing where I look back at the end of the day and go, oh, geez, didn't really choose
Laurie,
much living or anything different.
Yeah, so what does that look like for you? So I'm imagining someone's watching and they're like, okay, there's a challenge. There's 365 days. And you're talking about the energy of living, but they don't really know what to do. So what does that mean to you to choose living each day?
For me, what I've noticed is it seems to be almost like an energy in my body of like space and expansiveness and aliveness, and then there's an inspiration and an excitement that just comes from being on this frickin' planet and enjoying, choosing to make muffins and really be excited about that. Maybe listening to some awesome music in the background if I'm not a baker but my kids really want them. Or I live in a rural area, so I spend a lot of time on driving, and so I make a point now of having some really good music in the vehicle that creates more, so that my life is less on autopilot and more on the choice of each moment, the fun of each moment, and where I'm finding more flavor in everything. I've been married for 26 years, been with the same fella for 32, right? And what would create more fun and excitement there? And instead of like, oh, well, we get older, it gets worse, whether it's our bodies, our relationships, our jobs,
Mhm.
the only, just finding something inspiring by asking a question, something like, what would be fun for me today? What would create more living in my life today? And then follow things that match that energy.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So you're saying you're asking the question, what would create more living in my life today? And then you're
Mm-hmm.
actually choosing things that have that energy,
Yes.
right? So that's
Yeah. So,
that extra piece, because a lot of people will think about it, but I think what's different that I've noticed that you're inviting us to, in the 365 days Ignite Living is each day to consciously be aware and to choose something that ignites living for you, whatever that is.
yes.
Right?
And that what's neat is that the universe or the world or your intuition or your awareness, whatever you want to call it, will
Uh-huh.
let you know. So it's kind of like I started this challenge, and then I was sitting there, and all of a sudden it popped into my head, wow, why not do a Google Hangout about this? And I was like, where does that come from? But the energy of it matched the energy of the challenge, and it matched the energy of the living. And then the same thing, it was like, oh, why not do a radio show about it on Blog Talk Radio? Oh, and then
Hmm.
again. So it's like the universe will gift you with these ideas. And then
Yeah.
it's a matter of choosing it. So while you're in the vehicle and it's like, well, I should sing to this song, and it matches the energy of what living is for you. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's choosing it. So it's not wrong if you
Yes.
don't choose it.
That's kind of the
So,
igniting part, isn't that's the challenge. Because people have a lot of ideas, and then I know that I spent a lot of my life doing this. I have an idea about something, but I didn't always take the action to follow up with it
mhm.
and actually do the thing, right? And so to
Yes.
me, that's kind of been a part of this challenge is kind of staying awake enough to ask the question, and then the igniting part where you
Yeah.
actually take the action, like you have the idea for the Google Hangout, and then here we are, actually choosing and
Right.
instituting it and taking that action to go with it. And I think that's a
Yes.
really cool piece. And it seems so simple, but I know for myself, I spent years feeling stuck in this area. Like I kind of have an idea of what I'd like to create as my life and living, yet I
Mhm.
didn't I didn't really know what to do. And I would make it so significant. Like I have to do something that will be life altering and world changing, and I would really make it this
Right.
big, big deal. But what I didn't really get until probably the last year or two is it's the little choices that I make each day that actually
Yeah.
creates that. And that what seems like a little choice is actually a big choice. And that
Yeah.
the more of the little choices that I'm choosing each day to just take some of that energy of living, which for me might be going for a walk outside and enjoying nature because nature really has that energy of living for me. It's like
Mhm.
knowing that nature has the energy of living for me and actually walking my body to the nature and walking around in it are two really different
Yeah.
things. So I love this
Yeah.
challenge because every day I'm choosing to take an action and I'm choosing to take the challenge of actually instituting it. I will get up and I will go be in nature. I will get up and I'll get in the
Mhm.
kayak. And sometimes it takes and when something ignites, there's kind of a, right? There's an energy to it.
Mhm.
It's like, boom,
Yeah.
it ignites, and then there's something that happens after. And I've noticed sometimes it really can take me going, okay, I'm choosing this and making myself do it
Yeah.
in order to have the igniting. So that's one of the beautiful things about this challenge. So, Laura, you created a Facebook group, correct?
Yes. And
What?
you're welcome to join it. Again,
Yes.
it's hashtag 365 days ignite living.
Yeah, all one
And
word.
certainly if you're, yeah.
Well, the cool thing
Yeah.
about it is that we're not the only ones choosing. There are other people who have actually gotten involved. And for me, the cool
Yes.
thing about having the Facebook group is is looking at what other people are choosing and what's the energy of living for them that I may have never considered for myself before.
Yeah.
And it inspires me to choose it, and it helps me to remember that that's something I'm actually choosing each day, because it's like a muscle that you work. You know,
Yes.
there's not something that, we've been taught as children. Ask yourself what would it be like to truly fully be living in your life today, and do it. So it's something different. Most of us have spent, most of our lives, choosing something else, going more on autopilot. So this is just
Yes.
such a cool invitation.
Well, and one of the things that I love about it, and I'm noticing for myself already, is that it seems to gain momentum. Because I remember sitting there going, well, I don't know what living is for me. Number one, I didn't even know that the energy of living was possible. I,
Yeah.
you know, I really didn't. I was like, I'm doing what everybody else is doing, and isn't that enough? And I happen to be one of those crazy people where I'm like, there's got to be something wrong with me because I just don't think that this is enough. And I began to find other crazy people like me, and found out that other people are choosing more by asking questions of what would, create living in their life for them. And what I noticed is that as I started to tap into the possibility that it was possible,
Yeah.
then I began to kind of look around at this world and be like, oh, I hadn't even thought that I could, fly to Ireland one day or fly across the continent or something. And I began to choose, things like that. Flying in, I live in Canada, so I began to fly to the U.S. for classes. And just it began to be more when I saw other people inviting themselves and choosing more. I began to see that that was possible for me. And now that I'm really willing to step into it for me, I'm noticing just in this week already that it's gaining a momentum. What I thought before was like, how am I going to know what's living for me? Just by choosing one thing, it created an awareness, and then all of a sudden there's like 2 or 3 more awarenesses that come, and I'm like, oh, there's more. And then I'm noticing that there's more. And so, yet I needed to choose it first in order to almost get that invitation of seeing the, I'm going to use a big word, plethora of choices out there. So
yeah, I love that. I love that. And
yeah,
it's so cool. And it's like if someone like isn't at the place right now, or have the space in their life to jump on an airplane, some of the things that I've been seeing in the group, one person was sharing that just being present and being aware that something wasn't working for her in the moment, or she became aware that she wasn't really engaged in her life, but kind of going through the motions. And she loves to move her body, and she loves to do yard work. So she went out and mowed her lawn. And that, for her, was the energy of living. She's out there, she's moving her body, she's outside, and she also had the satisfaction of creating something, and had that instant gratification of a beautifully manicured, front lawn or back lawn or whatever it was. But it can be as simple as getting up and mowing the lawn, or exploring in your city, and maybe going to a cafe and enjoying a latte in a place that you're not used to. So it can be as simple as that. Or, wow, the energy of fresh cut flowers really lifts up my day, because for me, one of the energies of living is beauty. So I love to have beautiful things around me, and sometimes going and spending $7 at the grocery store to bring beautifully cut flowers into my home that I get to look at each time I pass by, or when I wake up in the morning. That's another thing that we can do that adds and expands our lives dynamically, but it's a small choice that we can make that has a big effect.
Yeah.
So just to kind of invite people to, like, it doesn't have to be something that appears to be so large. It's like, what choices can you make to actively pursue and actively choose the things that you know has the energy of living for you. Choose them and create it in your life each day. So the other beautiful thing, and let me know if I'm talking too much, that I'm noticing, I get really excited. So partly when I really get into the energy of living, sometimes I start talking fast and saying a lot. But one of the things I'm liking about going into this 365 Days Ignite Living Challenge Facebook group is that people are doing it different. They're doing it in their own
Yes.
way. There's not one
Yeah.
way. You have to come in and there are all these rules to follow.
Yeah.
It's like, would you like to ignite some living in your life? How would you like to do that? And would you like to be here in the generative energy of more people choosing it? Choose it in your way and share with us, if you'd like, what that is for you. And it's been really cool to see. So there's
Yeah.
no
This
right or
morning,
wrong way to do it,
I
right?
no, yeah. No, this morning I was inspired. I woke up and I mean, how many of us have yoga DVDs or exercise things we could watch on TV? And this morning it was just so light for me to just pull out one of these yoga DVDs and I asked, I talked to my body to what one would it like to do and I just picked a 15-minute one. And I allowed myself to really enjoy it and just stay present with it. And when I was finished, I was like, that was really lovely. There was an energy of living, not an energy of I have to, I should, this is what I'm supposed to do. It was like, whoa, why wouldn't I want to choose more of that? And that doesn't mean that now I'm just going to then be in the regimen of that's what I have to then choose every single day. But that's the energy that I brought into it. And then that's just creating more of it.
Exactly, following that spark of
Yes.
Ooh, that, ooh, that. So it's like
Yes.
that's more of yes, that worked this time, but what would it take to choose more of ooh, that?
Yes. And that's what I loved when I've heard too, so many times, it's never going to show up the way you think. That, we do make those, like you referenced earlier, that, well, a big choice or doing something that's really living would be flying to Mexico or would be bungee jumping or something.
Yes.
But it could be the dancing in the car, the walking in nature, the reading a book in the sun, or petting your cat or loving up your grandchild, or whatever the energy is for you. And I love it to be able to create a space within this group for everyone to choose what works for them, like without comparison, without the judgment, but with inspiration and with enthusiasm, and be like, oh, I never even thought of that.
Yes, exactly. And I love that too. And it's like, and the energy of living for you will be different than other people, and it might be different day to day, and it might be different throughout the day. So it's just really fun to be here with you and be in the group with other people, just kind of playing with like, what is it for me today? What would be fun? And just the exploration of living. It's kind of amazing, and it's really not a space that I played in with other people very much. So it's kind of different.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, it's like a person could say a gazillion more things about this,
Yes, exactly.
And I would just like to welcome anyone who's interested in joining us. And, if you desire to join the Facebook group, please do. And whether you post once, twice, 10 times, 365 times, awesome.
Yes.
And even if you just choose it in your own life, whatever that is for you, I mean, this is where being us changes the world. And what if us choosing more living, just tapping into that for the world, the trees being happier and the people around us being happier, and just tapping into that from what we're choosing. I mean, how does it get any better than that?
How does it? How does it? So I think, Laurie, there'll be some details in this Google Hangout. So maybe we'll put the link to the Facebook group so people can just link right into it. You do have to be on Facebook to be part of a Facebook group. But yeah, what would it take? So you're invited to come play in the energies of living with us and ignite something that maybe you have always known was possible but didn't know how to, and how can we contribute to you and support you in the creation of really igniting living for you.
Oh yeah. Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, we don't have any plan.
No.
Awesome. How does it get better?
That's
Uh-huh.
right. All right. Well, thanks, Melanie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laurie, and thank you everyone who watched this Google Hangout. You're amazing, and we
Yes.
hope to see you in the group and to come play with, igniting living in your life.
Have an awesome day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.